Good day, gentlemen. Dirk here with my first book review on the MGTOW solution. This will be on the manipulated man. But before I get into that, let me thank you guys once again for your support and feedback. This whole thing is a learning process for me, and I'm still kind of figuring out what works best and how to actually do all this stuff. I haven't been at this very long, but so far, so good. Okay, now on to the book. The Manipulated Man was written by a woman named Esther Villar in 1971. Those two facts are astounding enough, but what's really impressive is the content, where the author pulls no punches in describing the true nature of women and why men put up with them. Here's some points from the introduction, citing the author's observations of the most significant disadvantages for men compared to women. 1. Men are conscripted, women are not. 2. Men are sent to fight in wars, women are not. 3. Men retire later than women, even though, due to their lower life expectancy, they should have the right to retire earlier. 4. Men have almost no influence over their reproduction. For males, there is neither a pill nor abortion. They can only get the children women want them to have. 5. Men support women. Women never, or only temporarily, support men. 6. Men work all their lives. Women work only temporarily or not at all. 7. Even though men work all their lives, and women work only temporarily or not at all, on average, men are poorer than women. 8. Men only borrow their children. Women can keep them. As men work all their lives and women do not, men are automatically robbed of their children in cases of separation, with the reasoning that they have to work. Okay, none of this is news to any of us, but those are some pretty astute observations coming from a woman in 1971. And here's an excerpt from the chapter titled The Manipulated Man. The lemon-colored MG skids across the road, and the woman driver brings it to a somewhat uncertain halt. She gets out and finds her left front tire flat. Without wasting a moment, she prepares to fix it. She looks towards the passing cars as if expecting someone. Recognizing this standard international sign of woman in distress, weak female let down by male technology, a station wagon draws up. The driver sees what is wrong at a glance and says comfortingly, "Don't worry, we'll fix that in a jiffy." To prove his determination, he asks for her jack. He does not ask her if she is capable of changing the tire herself because he knows. She's about 30, smartly dressed, and made up. That she is not. Since she cannot find the jack, he fetches his own, together with his other tools. 5 minutes later, the job is done and the punctured tire properly stowed. His hands are covered with grease. She offers him an embroidered handkerchief, which he politely refuses. He has a rag for such occasions in his toolbox. The woman thanks him profusely, apologizing for her typically feminine helplessness. She might have been there till dusk, she says, had he not stopped. He makes no reply, and as she gets back into the car, gallantly shuts the door for her. Through the wound-down window, he advises her to have the tire patched at once, and she promises to get her garage man to see to it that very evening. Then she drives off. As the man collects his tools and goes back to his own car, he wishes he could wash his hands. His shoes, he had been standing in the mud while changing the tire, are not as clean as they should be. He's a salesman. What is more, he will have to hurry to keep his next appointment. As he starts the engine, he thinks, "Women, one's more stupid than the next." He wonders what she would have done if he had not been there to help. He puts his foot on the accelerator and drives off, faster than usual. There is the delay to make up. After a while, he starts to hum to himself. In a way, he's happy. Okay, the author goes on to discuss the topic of white knighting and points out, quote, "Women let men work for them, think for them, and take on their responsibilities. In fact, they exploit them. Yet, since men are strong, intelligent, and imaginative, while women are weak, unimaginative, and stupid, why isn't it men who exploit women?" End quote. That's a good question, and the author provides some explanations. But let me just throw in a few random paragraphs here to give you a feel for the book. At birth, men and women have the same intellectual potential. There is no primary difference in intelligence between the sexes. It is also a fact that potential left to stagnate will atrophy. Women do not use their mental capacity. They deliberately let it disintegrate. After a few years of sporadic training, they revert to a state of irreversible mental torpor. Why do women not make use of their intellectual potential? For the simple reason that they do not need to. It is not essential for their survival. Theoretically, it is possible for a beautiful woman to have less intelligence than a chimpanzee and still be considered an acceptable member of society. By the age of 12 at the latest, most women have decided to become prostitutes. Or, to put it another way, they have planned a future for themselves, which consists of choosing a man and letting him do all the work. In return for his support, they are prepared to let him make use of their vagina at certain given intervals. The minute a woman has made this decision, she ceases to develop her mind. She may, of course, go on to obtain various degrees and diplomas. These increase her market value in the eyes of men, for men believe that a woman who can recite things by heart must also know and understand them. But any real possibility of communication between the sexes ceases at this point. Their paths are divided forever. Okay, here's another one. Men seem incapable of realizing that women entirely lack ambition, desire for knowledge, and need to prove themselves, all things which, to him, are a matter of course. They allow men to live in a world apart because they do not want to join them. Why should they? The sort of independence men have means nothing to women, because women don't feel dependent. They are not even embarrassed by the intellectual superiority of men because they have no ambition in that direction. There is one great advantage which women have over men. They have a choice between the life of a man and the life of a dim-witted, parasitic luxury item. There are too few women who would not select the latter. Men do not have this choice. That's a pretty good one. Let's take a look at another. Woman's greatest ideal is a life without work or responsibility. Yet who leads such a life but a child? A child with appealing eyes, a funny little body with dimples, and sweet layers of baby fat and clear, taut skin, that darling miniature of an adult. It is a child that woman imitates. Its easy laugh, its helplessness, its need for protection. A child must be cared for. It cannot look after itself. And what species does not, by natural instinct, look after its offspring? It must, or the species will die out. With the aid of skillfully applied cosmetics designed to preserve that precious baby look, with the aid of helpless, appealing babble and exclamations such as ooh and ah to denote astonishment, surprise, and admiration, with inane little bursts of conversation, women have preserved this baby look for as long as possible so as to make the world continue to believe in the darling, sweet little girl she once was. And she relies on the protective instinct in man to make him take care of her. So, you get the idea. The chapter titles also provide some insight into her content. Here's some of those titles. Her stupidity makes woman divine. Women have no feelings. Sex as reward. Manipulation through bluff. Children as hostages. Women's liberation. In summary, the author was making the same observations in 1971 that men are making today. That was during second wave feminism, and of course, things haven't changed other than to actually get worse. This one is definitely worth a read. Personally, I like reading books about topics of interest. There aren't a lot of quality books specifically focused on MGTOW, but there are quite a few that should be of interest to MGTOW. I started with this one because it happens to be one of my favorites. I definitely recommend getting a copy, or you can hit the link in the description for a full audio reading of the book. I found myself nodding in agreement a lot as I first read The Manipulated Man, and I was able to look back at my previous experiences with women and better understand what happened. There was one woman in my life, for example, who used to say, "You're not listening," whenever I opposed her irrationality, and she appeared genuinely frustrated if I didn't agree with her. But I don't think that in this case she was deliberately trying to manipulate me. She just thought I was wrong. I believe that in her mind, if I didn't see things her way, the only possible explanation was that there must be something wrong with my perception. So the problem was obviously me. It couldn't possibly be her. Women have a knack for manipulating men, and this is why feminists have been so successful in advancing their agenda. They have a lot of men going along with whatever they say because the men are either unaware that they're being manipulated, or they don't care because they want female approval and possibly sex. So we have things like girls joining the Boy Scouts because most men refuse to raise the bullshit flag and insist on letting common sense prevail. We have the hardcore blue-haired feminists pushing their agenda, the vast majority of women going along with it and allowing feminists to speak for them, and millions of men saying, "Yes, ma'am, you're right. I'll support whatever you want. What would you like me to do next?" The situation has gotten downright surreal. It's as if there's a grand experiment happening to determine just how far men can be pushed. We're being vilified for our very nature as men, where simply being one is considered toxic. It seems everything is our fault, yet there is little to no discussion of the problems created by women. When that issue does come up, it gets reframed as yet another problem with men. A current example is that the Me Too movement has resulted in men avoiding women at work, a reasonable reaction for men protecting their livelihood. But that reaction is being painted as an inappropriate overreaction, and men are being encouraged to continue mentoring women despite the very real risks involved. So once again, men are expected to adapt, suck it up, and get with the program. And many men are doing exactly that, allowing themselves to be manipulated into accepting a system where they can be attacked just for being men, but are still expected to perform all of the functions demanded of men by women. Fuck that, gentlemen. One of the key points the author made in The Manipulated Man is that men are expected to be workers, with the primary beneficiaries of their efforts being women. I have a better idea. Work for your own benefit and let women fend for themselves, as they've insisted they're perfectly capable of. Collectively, men don't owe women anything. If anything, it's the other way around. The good news is that more and more men are coming to realize that common sense can prevail, and so they're going their own way. They're refusing to be manipulated and are voting with their feet. This simple idea is the result of men's ability to solve problems, an ability that men have demonstrated throughout history. We have common sense, and the way I see it, MGTOW is just another example of that. I hope you've enjoyed this book review, and I'll probably do some more in the future. On your way out, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and also hit the notification bell if you want to see upcoming videos. As always, I encourage everyone to give all MGTOW videos a thumbs up, because that helps guys find the stuff they're searching for. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.